Guys, the Dodge Charger as we know it is almost dead. In just 5 more days, you will no longer be able to place an order for a brand new Dodge Charger. And that's as of the time of this filming. July 31st is the final day to get your order in for the V8 powered monster that we have so come to love over the years. This generation has been around since 2011 in more or less its current form, and it's got fans all over the world. It's got a huge Mopar following, and this is a really special edition. This is one of the last call Chargers. It's the Super B model. It's limited production. They're only doing it in a couple colors. And in this video, we're going over the exterior, the interior, talking about the engine, and seeing what it's like to drive one of the last V8 equipped Chargers. Because everything that could be done to a Charger has been done, but this is just a celebration of what this car has become. And you know, it gets a lot of kind of criticism online for being old and heavy and having an interior that's not up to date. But quite honestly, this Charger now represents pretty good value for money and really is one of the most badass, one of the coolest looking, one of the most comfortable. People don't give this car enough credit for its comfort, and one of the best performance on a budget car that you can buy in 2023. It's a shame that the Charger as we know it is going away. But let's talk about the Super B. What is this model? Well, the Super B nameplate debuted on a Charger back in 1971, and it really is an icon. They've had special Super B editions over the years, and this final Super B edition for 2023 offers a lot of really cool visual touches and some performance touches as well. And we've got to start out with the graphics. So that Super B icon is legendary. You got this B. He's wearing this really cool looking racing helmet now. You know, you got the wings, you got the little stinger there, and you got the exhaust tips coming out the side. And this is one of the cool Super B add-ons. It's actually this graphic on the hood. Now this is B5 blue. They're building 500 of these cars in B5 blue and another 500 in plum crazy. B5 blue though is once again another iconic Mopar color, especially on the Charger, and that hood graphic is really cool. Now coming along the side here, Cole, you'll see another little B located there on the front fender. And then the coolest graphic, this is the retro throwback I love, is you've got this large graphic down the rear quarter. Now what's interesting is they didn't make the graphic too flashy. So if they really wanted it to stand out, they would have made it white or bright red or something. It's kind of this muted gray, but it's a nice like little subtle touch. You really got to know what you're looking at to know that this Super B is one of really 1,000 that are going to be built for the 2023 model year. Now some other changes that this Super B brings to the table. Now the hood is something pretty special. So we got a lot of venting on the hood, but it's all functional. So we've got heat extractors on both sides. You can see right down into the engine there on the driver's side. Same thing over there on the passenger side. And then we've got that functional hood scoop here in the middle. But one of my favorite features on the Super B are actually the hood pins. This is such a cool throwback muscle car feature. Functional hood pins too. It's not some decorative thing. These are functional hood pins. You got the little pin you can pull there, and they are secured via this little safety string to inside the grille. Now if this was my car, I think that these do look a little goofy. Personally, I would probably remove these, keep them in a box because that's going to be a collector's item one day. But the hood pins are really cool. So let's open the hood. We'll show how that works. You pull the hood pin. We're just going to let that dangle. Try not to let it scrape up the paintwork as we did there. Yep, quite nice. Now, for the final variations of the Charger lineup, there's really 7 special models that they're coming out with. This is one of the 7, the Super B. And this particular B5 equipped Super B has the 392 Scat Pack engine. So that is an engine that a lot of Mopar fans have come to love over the years. That is a 6.4 liter naturally aspirated V8 making 485 horsepower, 475 pound-feet of torque. And if you're ever wondering, you know, if you're watching this video in 30 years and you're collecting the last call edition Chargers, is this a last call? Check it out right there. Charger last call, designed in Auburn Hills, Michigan, assembled in Brampton. And that is really the final straw. And starting at the very end of this year, the Brampton assembly is no longer going to be producing new Chargers and Challengers as we know it. They're going to be switching over to the future of what's probably most likely going to be an electrified version of Stellantis's Halo cars. So we're still not really sure what they're going to do there, but we do know that December 31st is the end of the line for the Charger and Challenger as we know it. Now let's put the hood pins back on. Very satisfying. Of course, hood pins were developed back in the day to prevent hoods from flying open, back when hood catches weren't standardized or really regulated. Nowadays, of course, you have the hood pole inside and you have the catch, so it's more of an aesthetic thing, but it does look cool. And then in the front of the Charger, right, lots of stylistic features we've come to know and love, like these iconic headlights with a daytime running light that extends around the length of the headlight. I love the nostrils here in the grille to feed those big intakes. You've got the Super B badging here with that little B located up front, and then you got that big air intake down low, and a lot of aero work to help keep this car planted down the quarter. And that really is what the Super B is all about. It's about maximizing the quarter mile time. So quarter mile in this car should be somewhere around 11.7 under ideal conditions, which is really quick for a naturally aspirated V8. This is, as we talked about, this particular one, this is not the Hellcat, right? This is just the 6.4, but to do a quarter in under 12 seconds is very impressive. And part of the reason this car is able to achieve those times is because the Super B package includes these Nexen drag spec tires. So this is a very aggressive street tire. Probably one of the most aggressive I've seen on a production car. It still is a DOT legal tire, but it's about as close to a drag slick as you can possibly get for road use. 275/40 R20s wrapped around these black wheels, and then hiding behind there you'll see the Brembo 4-piston brakes. Of course, Charger can be had in a wide body. This particular one is just, you know, your narrow body, Scat Pack equipped Charger, but with those radials. It transforms the driving experience of this car, especially in dry on the road. This is not a tire you want to use in wet. You definitely don't want to use this tire in snow or slushy conditions. But in the dry, these Nexens hook up like mad. Now as we make our way to the back, black painted mirror caps there, pretty aggressive side sill down low there. And then you do have this really cool spoiler out back here, and you also get functional vents behind the rear tires. So what I like about this Super B is that just about everything you see is functional. So in most vehicles, that's going to have like a blank panel, but you can kind of see in there. I don't have Matt Watson's Stick of Truth, but I do have the TFL Leaf of Justice. You can see that those are completely functional vents, which is cool. And as we make our way toward the back here, you got the iconic Raceway taillights. You got the deck spoiler there, and you've got those large dual exhausts. And speaking of dual exhausts, Cole, I'm going to give you the mic. Let's see what it sounds like. That right there, that's how an engine should sound. And there's no soft limiter too, so you can rev that puppy all the way up toward redline. But Cole, why don't you hop in the passenger seat and we'll talk about the interior of this car, because that's an area where this vehicle gets a lot of criticism, and I think a lot of it is undeserved. So, you know, when people hop into these Chargers, there's often a lot of elitist attitude in the car community. And let me turn the car around so we get a good look at the interior. We're not distracted by the cars in front of us. But you know, there's a lot of, especially fans of German cars. I love German cars. I've owned tons of them. Big fan of them. But you know, the first thing German guys do when they get an American car is they start slapping the dash, right? They're always touching stuff. You know, oh, look, the dash doesn't sound very good. And my response to that is, when are you ever getting in a car and just start getting your slimy, grimy hands over the dash and the A-pillars, and they just start poking stuff, and it's like they're trying to play a Peter Gabriel concert on the inside of your American car. Sure, if you start drumming out in here, you're going to notice some pretty cheap materials, but the stuff you interact with on a daily basis really is quite good. So this leather-wrapped steering wheel feels awesome, perfect to the touch. You got this shifter, once again, it's got premium materials up there, feels quite nice in the activation, and you got these Super B style seats. Let me take my seatbelt off so you can see that. Look at the little B in there. That is fantastic. And a suede finish with the leather bolstering. It's actually a pretty darn comfortable seat. You know, it's another part of these cars that people criticize is the lounge chairs and the weight on these cars. Yeah, I mean, it's a 4,500 pound car. This is not a track car. You know, if you want to go to the Nürburgring, don't in this car. But who cares? I'm out here in Michigan right now near the Chelsea Proving Grounds where they help develop these cars. It's just straight roads, you know, and I go to Colorado, and sure, we have some twists, but my commute is just straight roads. To get from my house to Phoenix, it's like 1,000 miles and 6 turns. Seriously, there's like 6 turns off the interstate. So, you know, as Americans, you got to understand that these cars are designed to be comfortable, long-distance, high-speed cruisers, and also effective drag racers. And sure, the car weighs over 4,500 pounds, somewhere in that territory. Do I care? Not really, because if you want to handle well, get a Miata, get an M3. If you want to sound badass, go fast in a straight line, and have a comfortable experience doing so, that's the niche that the Charger has filled. And that's a niche we're really losing with the death of the Charger here in US spec'd American cars, which is a shame. But anyway, enough with my rant. Let's talk about some of the other features on the inside. So we do have real carbon fiber trim surrounding the instrument bezel and the Uconnect 8.4-inch screen. This is not the new Uconnect 5. Personally, I'm okay with it because this Uconnect system is one of the easiest, fastest, and you know, best systems in the industry. Even the old version is just so simple to use. The app pages, the way you interact with the navigation, very, very simple. There are certain apps which do take a while to load. Let's go into the SRT dashboard. Sometimes this can be a little slow and finicky, especially with performance pages, as I was saying. But it does show you a lot of cool information. So you get your gauge groups in here, which I'm hoping will show you. Once again, making my case for sometimes being a little slow to load. There we go. But so we have our engine specifications with our oil pressure. You can see horsepower, torque. Let's go to the home page. You got same thing, gear position, intake temperature. We got timers. So you can use an internal timer to time your 0 to 60s and your quarter miles, that kind of thing. Then these are my favorite. We got various accessory gauges, which you can configure there. G-force, engine specs, and dyno charts as well. So all of that stuff is really, really good. And speaking of that, if you want to look down here, Cole, we actually have a number of different drive modes in this vehicle. So we do have line lock. If you're at the track, you can lock up those front wheels and then activate the line lock to get a nice burnout, warm up those tires. Track modes, sport modes, custom, and then the Super B also has special programming for drag racing as well. So it's got specially tuned shock absorbers, and it's got a special configuration to maximize the quarter mile time, which I think is very, very cool. But all of this is pretty similar to what's been in Chargers in a lot of years. It does have Apple CarPlay, it does have Android Auto, it does work well. Now beyond that, if you want to look at some hard physical controls, we still have physical volume and tune knob, something which is very rare in 2023, but because this is an older platform, still get both of those, which is great. Drive mode selector there, and then launch control there, which is great. And then, once again, physical controls for your climate control. Dual zone automatic climate control with heat up and down there. And then fan controls here. Full automatic. Below that, you got your your standard little cubby there. No wireless charging in this car. You do have your 8-speed automatic transmission selector. Torque converter automatic transmission. Designed by the Dodge brothers, designed in Detroit. It's pretty neat. And then behind that, this is where things are starting to look really dated, right? Cup holders with a little slider, and then you want to pop this open. You do have USB ports, but they are just USB-A, so pretty old school charging ports. And let me talk about the price on this car. I got the Monroney for this special edition Super B here. So, as configured, base price $50. You can see down here, we've got the B5 blue exterior paint. We've got the Super B Special Edition, which is going to cost you nearly $5,500. But then we also have Technology Group, the carbon and suede interior package. So like up here in the headliner, if you are in touching places you shouldn't be touching, you do have beautiful suede across the headliner, across the visors even, and then all the way through the roof. Feels very, very good. And then you've got the navigation and travel group, which is Sirius XM and GPS. Now total price $63,985, and there's a couple of different perspectives you can take on the matter, right? You can say 63 grand for a car that hasn't changed that much, let's be honest, for a decade. It's a lot of money. You can also look at it as I was just driving the new Ford Mustang, and aspect, the one I was driving was about $66,000. Similar power, 486 horsepower. This one's 485. This car has 5 seats, 5 usable seats. And here, why don't you stay there, Cole? Let me hop in the back. Check this out. Great room in the rear. Something that a lot of other cars have really become, luxuries, is that you got a lot of room in the back seat of this car, and actually pretty good headroom even at 6 feet tall. Got just enough headroom to spare. So yeah, 5 seats compared to the really 2 usable ones in the Mustang. You got a much larger interior. You got a much more usable trunk. You get drag radial. So it depends on your perspective. 63 is a lot for any car, but this car does offer a lot of comfort and a lot of convenience features for the price. But enough with talking about the things that people don't care about, and probably let's get to the cool parts, which is the driving experience. So turn off launch control because we're in a gravel parking lot, and go sport mode. Off. Hang on, it doesn't want to turn launch control off. There we go. We'll cycle it. Great startup sound in these chargers, by the way. There we go. We got launch control turned off. Yeah, so what I like about these cars is they really do fit the needs of a lot of folks, right? They're big, comfortable cars. You know, it used to be in the US, every car was a big, comfortable car, and then they kind of started to dwindle. You had like the Chrysler 300, the Dodge Charger, and then of course you had the Panther platform cars like the Crown Vic and the Mercury Marauder, and then Ford replaced those with the Taurus, which was, it was fine. And then, you know, those cars have come and gone. The Charger really is, and the 300 by Chrysler, one of the last of the comfortable, large, old school American cars. Let's go left here. Let's see where this goes. And it's a large, comfortable American car that when you give it some accelerator, still absolutely impresses with the acceleration. You know, the Hemi 6.4, I think for the most part has proven itself to be a very reliable engine stock out of the box, and then can be made even more powerful with the huge number of aftermarket support that this engine offers. But it offers a lot of kind of bandwidth in what it's capable of doing. So, you know, I think it's up to 24 mpg on the highway, I think, if I remember that number right. It still is an engine that's willing to play with you and willing to have some fun. Now, it's not a particularly high revving engine compared to like the Coyote I was just driving in the Mustang. That engine will rev to 7,500. This engine kind of runs out of steam about 6,000 and some change. But it makes power everywhere in the rev range. So whether or not you're up high, down low, there's gonna be power, which is a very satisfying experience. And you know, nowadays all the cars I'm driving recently have been some variation of 2-liter turbo, which is fine. You know, I like me a nice 2-liter turbo. That's a good option for an engine. But you know, it's cool being able to drive a car like this that has such a big honking V8 that is happy to make power at 2,500 RPM, that you don't have to you know, worry about running out of steam at 5,000 RPM, because it pulls hard and it pulls high. Okay, we got a turn here. Let's see how it handles. Downshift a couple times into the turn. Feel the weight of the car, but these tires are so sticky. It's amazing what you can do with wide rubber. We actually owned for a number of years a 16 Hellcat Challenger narrow body car. It really could have used these tires as an option. These Nexen drag radials are very sticky and do transform the driving experience. But the engine delivers good power. This is more power than you'll ever need. I actually prefer the way that this engine responds, behaves, and sounds in the Hellcat engines. Kind of a you know, not a great take, I think most people would consider. But I just love the response that the NA engine gives and the progressive power band that this engine offers. And it offers way more than enough power for me. 485 horse, it's plenty. It really is plenty of power. And you get to save a lot of money over the Hellcat. And sure, it's not as quick as the 717 cars, but it still is very, very quick. Now, but what I love about this car is, say, okay, you're done driving sportily, you're done scaring the neighbors, put it in auto. The 8-speed automatic goes back to doing its thing automatically, and the car just floats. It's a comfortable car. The way they are able to kind of transform the overall driving experience of this vehicle from, you know, drag performer to let's just cruise and go get ice cream, it's pretty amazing. Now, it's not floaty. It's not as softly sprung as like a standard 5.7 Charger or, you know, a Pentastar Charger, but it's a comfortable car. I mean, this is a car you could easily take a road trip in. You turn on your adaptive cruise. You are missing some features that, you know, you'd come to expect in more recent releases, like automatic lane centering and that kind of thing in this car. But adaptive cruise on, keep it in auto. The car spins at like 1,800 RPM at 70 miles an hour, and you can get good fuel economy at a comfortable ride and just cruise. And that's what I love about these cars, right? They're screamers. They can do the drag strip things that they're supposed to do, but they're not trying to be something they're not. They're not trying to impress you with lap times or really kind of try to prove what you can do on a circuit. It's just meant to be a cruiser, comfortable car that's fun to drive and will impress all your friends in a straight line. Wow, we keep running on the pavement here, Cole. This is a real shame. All right, we'll give it one more squirt of acceleration up the hills here. Oh, God, what a fantastic, lumpy V8. Absolutely love this engine. You know, we've seen the new concept for the electric charger, the Daytona Banshee. Personally, I think that we're going to see some more gasoline Chargers, Challengers going forward. I think they're probably going to go to the inline 6 turbo, which is a great engine. We see that in the Grand Wagoneer and that kind of thing. But man, am I going to miss the 6.4 liter. And I say, if you can be one of the 1,000 to get a Super B Charger in the last call, it's probably my favorite of the 7 editions. I just think it really harkens back to some amazing lineage that the Charger's known for. Go for it, because this is a special experience which you just know will never be replicated in the automotive industry going forward. Guys, let me know what you think of Big Cole behind the camera. We'll see you in the next video.